Hey Tomas, happy Easter. All right, post. All right, here we are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. I was thinking today just how proud I am of you guys. You're all sailing so good, killing it, trying so hard. I love it. I love to see it. I love looking at all these posts in the group. Hey Fabrice, we've got more and more content, more and more videos that are being shared. I love it. Yeah, so many great questions. We've got a lot to go over this week. If you're joining us for the first time, this is live coaching that I do every Sunday. You can post your questions in the chat, or you can join our Facebook group, which is Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching Community on Facebook. It's facebook.com/group/Ezzy Coaching. We've got just over 2,000 members, and there's discussion going on in the week. Hey Ridge, where you can post your photos, your videos, your questions, your comments, and we go through it. So there's discussion during the week. I post my comments, but there's a lot of value from the community where other people post what has helped them. So there's maybe a question about a back loop, and I give my tips, but then someone else also gives their tips, and that is what's so valuable about having the community, because oftentimes it's just one or two little keys that really unlock a move and make it from a crash to a make. And that's why the community aspect of this is so, so, so important. Hey Mark, hey Charles, hey Caro. So tell me, have you guys been sailing? Have you been sailing? I know there's been wind around. I really want to go sailing tomorrow. Hey Den. I'm in Germany. I'm in Hamburg. We've got wind. Looks like for Weissenhaus. It's going to be cold. I don't know if I'm prepared with thick enough neoprene, but I'm dying to get on the water. It's been a few weeks since I was in the water last on Maui, and I really want to get a session in, even if I don't have thick enough boots or gloves. So let's see. I think I'll make the plan in the morning where I go. I'll check the forecast again in the morning and make a plan. If you guys are sailing somewhere, let me know. Are you also going to Weissenhaus? Are you going to the Baltic Sea? Where are you sailing? We've got a lot of good questions for this week. We've got a lot of stuff. I'm just going to roll through it. I know that most of you guys are busy, and so I'm just going to kind of roll through like we normally do with the questions on the Facebook group. I'm trying to think if I've got other housekeeping things to mention. I'm working on some of these courses, developing courses to supplement this coaching as well. The first one that I'm going to release is the forward loop course, which is for people who have never done a forward loop before. Also, I had the idea when I was thinking about, okay, what other kind of instruction could be fun, what could be useful for people, and we had so much success last year with the clinic in Denmark, and I was thinking it would be so cool to do a clinic that was just focused on sailing your bad tack, your bad wind direction. So if you only sail wind from the left, I'd get a group of people who only sail with wind from the left, and we go to Morocco or go to Guincho in Portugal and just learn wind from the right. Or if you only sail wind from the right, then we'd go to Cabezo, go to Tenerife, and just learn wind from the left. And so you're learning all together, again, this community style learning and learning your bad tack. We've got a post from Richard in the group about trying to learn with wind from the right. He's used to wind from the left. And I know it's difficult, I know it's uncomfortable, but it is one of the best things that you can do to get better at windsurfing is practicing your bad side. And then when you go back to your good side, it's so much better. So that was an idea I had. We'll see. Right now it's so difficult to plan because of all the corona restrictions, and I hope everyone is safe and healthy, all of that. All right, so Jorg, some freestyle. Stina was out in Handsome back in Copenhagen. Looked good. I hope you had fun, Stina. Are you going to be able to sail somewhere around Copenhagen? It looks like there's more wind coming this week as well. Good evening, Greg. Sounds like you might get some sailing. Hey, Axel. Hey, Ridge. I know. I really, I don't know how to pronounce that. How do you pronounce that, Ridge? Masvlakta. I don't know if that's close enough, but I love the pictures that I've seen from there. And if it weren't impossible, I think I would come. But with the restrictions, with the border restrictions, I'm pretty sure it's impossible for me to drive over from Germany to the Netherlands for the session. So hopefully there's a day this summer once the restrictions are lifted and I can make it over. Yeah, so at least there's some wind. You guys are getting on the water. Get some footage, get some photos, get some questions. And we can fuel next week's session. I've got a few other projects I'm working on, so keep your eyes in the group. They're going to be released there. I'm doing a little project. I think I mentioned it. I don't know if it was last week or the week before with Sarah Hauser, teaching her to do Wave 360s, and we're documenting that process, that coaching process. And so I'll release that, at least the first video of that, I think this week. And I think it's a cool insight into the learning process, into the coaching process, even if you're not trying to learn 360s. Hey, Prokopis, nice for joining us. Cool, Stina. I hope you can get some photos with some video. I'm so impressed with how much windsurfing there is in Denmark. Denmark has great windsurfing. Hey, Bart. Nice to see you here. Some good Cornwall conditions. Cool. Cool. All right, let's get into the coaching. I want to make sure you guys can hear me, see me. Everything's working fine. So if there isn't, let me know in the chat. I've got a bit of a different setup. At some point I'll take a picture of my setup. Or I'll take a picture and I'll post it in the group. I've got different mic and light and all kinds of stuff set up. So I'll post that in the group. So hopefully you guys can hear me fine. And I'll get into the coaching. Axel's on the wind skate. I think that's good training, especially when you can't get on the water. So it's good to do. All right, so first question is from Jorg about the Insta360 versus the GoPro. I don't have a perfect comparison because I was using one of the older GoPros. I think it was the GoPro 7 or 8 against the Insta360 X2, which is a 360 cam. And I'm really happy with the Insta360. It does more or less everything I want. I can't get the remote to work consistently, which is quite annoying. But the footage is beautiful, and I think it's a pretty good angle for capturing what I want to capture, which is mainly now about showing enough of what's happening so that when I post it for you guys in the group, you can see what I'm doing. Now, you guys probably have a different goal of trying to capture your session, not necessarily trying to teach your session, right? And so then I'm not sure if my setup is right for what you want to do. Like, one of the things I had hoped for, what I really was looking for, is an angle that I could use that then I could post in the group, and you guys, and we could all be using it, and then we could all compare the footage, and we all have the exact same angle. And that would be so amazing for the coaching. But a lot of the things sticking off my head to get this footage are really uncomfortable and borderline dangerous, depending on how big the waves are. And there were a few situations where I had a bit of a panic because I've got this thing sticking off the top of my head attached to a helmet, and when it gets stuck in the boom and it's yanking on my neck. And so I had a pretty sore neck also the days after doing the filming. I've still got to post more of the footage. I have a ton of good footage from it. But anyway, my point is that it's not that fun. It gets some good footage, but it definitely affects your session. So I'm not sure if my uses are the same as your uses. Anyway, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm going to be experimenting with some new mounts. I'm getting sent some new mounts, and hopefully those are going to be maybe an option where we can all be using the same angle, because then it's just a lot easier to compare footage. So anyway, York, I don't know if that fully answers your question. I think both the GoPro and the Insta360 are good options. They both have some positives and negatives. It's a lot about the mount more than anything else, actually, I would probably say. So there's that. All right. Mark. Yeah, so Mark points out that someone was using a GoPro to shoot both sides of the sail from what was the mount? From a fly mount. And that's pretty cool. We'll get to that as we scroll through the group. Jeff says that Cape Town's going to be windy. Sounds good. Get some footage, get some photos. Work on those cutbacks. Get the butt low, get the rail sunk. Get on the heels. I want to see the progress, Jeff. All right, and Ridge says that's why he likes to put the camera on the top of the mast. Doesn't bother you at all. Yeah. So Mark, the harness mount that I was using, I didn't really like. I'm getting sent some new harness mounts that I think are less cumbersome, but I've got to try them and then I'll let you know. But I would really love to find a harness mount angle that doesn't affect the sailing too much, because I think that's a really good angle for learning. You can see the hands, the feet, the head, and also where you're going, which, I mean, that's kind of about everything, right? Like every angle has its drawbacks. If you're shooting from the top of the mast, you get a good view of the hands and the feet and the head, but you lose perspective of where you're going, how big the wave is, kind of what's happening. The boom, there are some angles from the boom that look good. From the clue, I don't really like it. I feel like there's too much perspective lost. It's hard to see exactly what's happening. Hey, Max. From the helmet can be interesting, but then you can miss some things as well. I've been using a helmet with a unicorn thing. So it's a helmet with a stick going off it with a 360 cam. Kind of the video game POV angle. York, I think there are some cool 360 cam shots from the mast, but you need to have it stick out a little bit. Victor Fernandez has some footage like that where he's filming with a 360 cam. It might be the GoPro 360 sticking off of the mast, and it's definitely interesting. But I think that the 360 cam wants to be a bit closer to your body. I think from the mast it looks maybe a little bit far, but there is some footage like that, which is pretty interesting. Yeah. Anyways, we don't have a perfect solution yet, but there's some good things out there. And I mean, the truth is, as long as you start, it's better than nothing. If you've got a GoPro on a fly mount on your mast, that's 100, 1,000, a million times better than having nothing at all, right? You can see what you're doing, which is number one. And, number one is seeing the footage of yourself, because that connects your brain with your body and the feeling. And then two is that we can analyze it in the group. Yeah. So let's move on a little bit from the cameras. If you guys have more advice about the cameras, post it in the chat. I think we can move on. I'm gonna post more and more footage that I filmed in Maui in the group from the camera. It's just a bit of a pain to go through and edit with the 360 footage. It's not a pain, it just takes longer. It's not actually that hard. All right, so we had a few questions about flockas, and I posted a couple videos just to show how they can be implemented into a wave ride, which I like to do when the waves are mushy or they don't have so much power. And so here are two examples of that I found where the waves are a bit bumpy. It's hard to do a traditional top to bottom ride. You can just spice up the wave ride with a bit of freestyle moves. Now the flocka is a very difficult move, so I'm not saying everyone should go out and try to learn flockas, but it's just an example of if you are learning flockas, if you are doing freestyle, how you can implement it into a wave ride. And you don't have to be doing advanced sliding freestyle like a flocka. You can be doing sail body 360 where you're just spinning around with the sail and your body, but the board stays pointing in one direction, or you can go on the lee side or clue first. There's a lot of these freestyle-y approaches to riding a wave you can do that are especially fun when the conditions are mushy and the wave's not offering traditional down the line riding. All right, next up, we've got a video from Charles. This is from, I gotta turn off the sound, hold on. All right, so this is from a lake, believe it or not, waves on a lake. Let's get the quality up. So, welcome to the group, Charles. We're gonna watch this video and then we're gonna go through some tips. So very onshore conditions, we can tell. It's hard to see how big the waves are, but we can tell that the wind is quite onshore, but you're doing a good job, Charles, of flowing and keeping your speed. So I really like to see that. And it can be difficult to ride waves in these kind of conditions where it's so onshore and you're really going clue first. And you've got these really long bottom turns. It can be challenging. So I've got a couple small pointers for you to work on that I think will open up your wave riding a little bit, that will give you some more power to be playful, some tools that will open up the face of the wave. Like when I'm looking at the face of a wave, whether it's on a lake, at Hokipa, at Jaws, at Pozo, it doesn't matter where, I'm always looking at what I can do. Because one of the number one things is you don't want to be projecting onto the wave. You want to be reading the wave. So you don't say, before you look at the wave, oh, I'm going to do a 360 and a goiter and a cutback and an aerial. You look at the wave and you say, oh, what's possible here? And so you've got this canvas of the wave. And the more tools you have in your bag, the more tricks you can do, then the more is possible on that canvas. And Charles, so what I'm going to tell you are a couple of these tools that are easy to work on, and then you have them forever, and then it will really open up your wave riding in these conditions, which will allow you to be looser, to collect more speed. And so the first thing is to do some backside turns. In onshore conditions like this, you've got a great setup for going backside. Allows you to, one, do a dynamic turn more easily than going frontside, because going frontside you're often losing your speed, you're fighting that angle with the wind, but when you're going backside you can do a really dynamic turn in these onshore conditions. And so there's a few times on this wave where we see a section where you could go backside. So for example, this section here where you're starting your turn. So you're starting on a power section, it looks like. Again, it's hard to tell from the mast mount, but it looks like you're starting on a power section, which is great. One of the main heuristics that I'm talking about when planning a wave ride, running waves, you want to start at a power source and go to a power source. And it looks like you're starting on power source, which gives you some good speed as you're dropping into the wave. But especially in this kind of onshore condition, it can be very fun, very useful, and just good high performance to do a backside turn here. And so this is a good section to do a backside turn. We've discussed backside turns extensively before, so I don't want to go too much into it. But basically, you're just rolling onto your heels, you're jamming your sail into your shins, and you're leaning forward, getting on the toes, and carving using the power of that wave. And so it's like you've got this little wall, and you're just carving on it, on your toes, and coming down in front of the wave. And it allows you to get the rail engaged. And if you start thinking of the wave, not just in terms of frontside turns, but backside carving and frontside carving, suddenly there's so much more you can do on any one wave. And when you're linking the frontside and the backside turns, it gives you a lot of speed, power options, and it just makes for a really dynamic ride, really dynamic wave ride. It's a great feeling, especially in these onshore conditions of doing this backside, frontside, frontside, where you're really connecting with the wave. So anyway, this here where that you start looks like a section where you could do a backside turn, a backside carve, and then go into your bottom turn. In the bottom turn, it's really difficult to see from this angle because we're just looking at you. We can't see the wave. We don't have the perspective of the wave. It's a long bottom turn, which I think is a product really of the conditions. One of the things that I find useful when it's so onshore like this, and everyone's different, so you might not find it as useful as I do, but is to really get low in the knees. So to really, really bend the knees in this kind of onshore conditions. And it can, for some reason, feel like you want to be standing up. But when you're low like that, it's a little bit easier to keep your speed, and then you just have so much more power. You're able to really connect with the board. It's more responsive. So just getting really low in the knees like that. Yeah, Charles. So backside. If the waves don't have power and it's onshore, backside is the way to go. So here's another example where, I mean, you've got great flow. I love the flow. You know, you can see that you're really keeping your speed and you are coming backside. So I just want you to think of the backside turn with as much care and effort as you're putting into the frontside turns, because I can see you're putting in a lot of effort to your frontside turns, and you are going backside like that. So just put that same focus into the backside turns, and just realize that a backside turn can be as dynamic, as radical as a frontside turn. So this is another section where it looks like a great place to come backside, collect some speed from the wave. So here again, to go a little bit lower in the knees. I don't want to overload you, Charles. I really don't want to overload you. So I'm gonna say a few things, and if they stick, they stick. I don't want to get too focused on the minutia, but I'm gonna say them anyway, because if they stick, that's great. If they don't worry about it. What I would say is to really focus on the backside rides, and then one other thing that I'm going to bring up in a second. But the next small tip is about your grip. So you've got your back hand quite close to your harness lines. You'll notice that you have a lot more power and control if in your bottom turn you've got that hand about here. So I'm not sure if you guys can see the mouse on the screen, but you can move this hand back. So if right now your hands are like this, you can move it back about, let's say, somewhere between 1 and 2 feet. You know, a lot of times in the pictures you see the pro guys, you know, grabbing to the clips. We do that sometimes. I'm surprised when I look at my bottom turn pictures, sometimes where my backhand is. Sometimes it's all the way on the clip, sometimes it's not. But you always want to at least reach it back a little bit. It gives you really a lot more control and a lot more power. And it opens up a lot more possibilities. So with a lot of the coaching, what I'm trying to make happen is so that you guys are in a position, a state where you have options. And then that is what allows you to do what I love so much about wave riding, which is really enjoy this dance with the wave. And so the more options you have, the more you can just dance with the power of the wave. And so the more speed you have, the more options you have. The more control you have, the more options you have. The more power you have, the more options you have. And so it just allows you to get to sections that you wouldn't otherwise maybe be able to get to, and all of that stuff. So having that nice wide grip gives you that power. So reaching this hand back can make a huge difference. What I recommend doing is putting a bit of colored tape on the boom. just so you have a visual indicator of where to put that hand. Don't put it too far back. I think that it's counterproductive if you've got that hand way back, and it can just be hard to reach and uncomfortable. So think of just putting it a little bit farther back. All right, so that's one of the small tips. Again, integrating the backside turns into the wave ride will really, really make a nice balance to this wave ride, because you're giving a lot of focus, a lot of effort to the frontside turns. This is a perfect section, this section we just saw, for doing a backside turn. So we can look, you're coming up to this section, there's a bit of breaking whitewater, and you can just jam that board right up into that whitewater. Get what we like to call a high five. So Charles, I know you're new to the group, so I'm going to explain the high five quickly. So the high five is getting that connection of the bottom of the board to the power of the swell. So what wave riding is, at its most basic level, is taking this chaotic energy that is a wave and turning it into board speed. Okay, that's what wave riding is on its most basic. How do you do that best? How you do that best is by connecting with, as that power is throwing, there's a moment where the wave is throwing, and that moment is, it lasts over maybe 1 or 2 seconds where that power is moving, and there's one critical moment, but there's some time around that moment as well where you can connect with the power of the wave. But getting that connection, that throwing power of the wave, so it connects perfectly with the bottom of your board, so it gets that high five. You don't want it to hit the rail here, you don't want to hit the top of the board, you don't want it to hit here, you want it to get exactly on the bottom of the board between your feet, where your feet are. And that high five is that transfer of energy from the wave to your board. And so what you can think about is getting that high five with a section like this going backside. And if you're thinking about that high five, and so what is going through your head is just about getting your board at the right position, the right angle to then make that contact. I think too much of windsurfing instruction is around things like lean forward, bend your knees, do this, do whatever, rather than thinking in bigger concepts, which I think can be more useful. And so this high five is one of these big concepts. And so it works both frontside and backside. But this is a section where you can do that backside and collect a lot of speed, a lot of power, get a nice dynamic turn. And then I also want you to do it frontside. So there's a great section here. So I don't know your comfort level, Charles. You've got to define for yourself what you're comfortable doing or not. But you seem to be an advanced sailor, and the waves don't seem to have too much power. So I think you can hit these sections. So there's a section here that we see that's got a bit of breaking water, a bit of white water. I want you to try and get a high five in this section. And so you've got this curl in the wave here. You just get that bottom of the board so that it lines up with where the wave is pushing. So right about here. And it will just so nicely carry you, transfer all its energy into you, turn it into speed, and just carry you so that you're flying out in front of it. It's such a good feeling. Getting that high five is such a good feeling. And so rather than working on these face turns, which can be really difficult, especially when the waves are on the fatter side and they don't have so much energy, is to try and get this lip contact, this contact with the foam. And I think you're good enough from what I see. Again, you've got to define your comfort level. If you're not comfortable with that, fine. But that would be something to work on. So the two big takeaways, and I said a lot of other little things, which if those help you, great. If they don't, come back to them. But the two big things are to incorporate backside riding. So really think of the backside as a dynamic turn and give it the same focus, love, and attention as you're giving to your front sides. And then two is to hit these sections. So to hit the front side sections, get that high five, hit the breaking wave. This is a perfect moment. So if you just take a screenshot of this right here, this is the section that you want to hit. You want to look for these. And I think there's one more that we see. So again, you're coming into this bottom turn. Again, a wider grip will give you more control and allow you to go more vertical, give you that power. Yeah, so coming and hitting this section here where it's just starting to break. That's I think the goal, something to work up to. So try and get that high five both front side and back side. So you can hit these breaking waves. Again, make sure you're comfortable with it. You know, I haven't seen you windsurfing, so I'm not sure, but it looks like you've got the level to do it. You're carrying your speed. So I think go for it. I think you're ready at least. So all right, you've got some things to work on. Get some more footage. Post in the group. Can't wait to see your progress. And thanks for joining us. All right. Next up, we've got Richard. So Richard is used to sailing port tack. That means wind from the left. This is with wind from the right. So suddenly thrown off balance, right? And I know that a lot of you guys are used to sailing with one wind direction. And so when it blows the other side, things feel awkward, unnatural, kind of crazy. But I tell you what, embracing that experience, embracing that learning, even seeking out that uncomfortable feeling will help you get better so much faster. It's doing amazing things to your brain where the way I relate it to people who don't windsurf, it's like trying to learn calligraphy with your left hand if you're right-handed. And it's just connecting so many things in your brain so that when you go back to the wind direction that you're used to, it's so much easier. Things start to make sense. And I kind of take it for granted a bit in my own learning, in my own progression, because I learned on Maui, which is always wind from the right. I went to the Canaries when I was 15 to spend the whole summer there, which is just wind from the left. And when I showed up, it was, it was like being a beginner again. I had no idea how to do anything, right? You do a straight jump and you can't even hold on. You get blown downwind in a weird way, and wave riding just feels so awkward. But you put in the time, you persevere through that awkward feeling, which is learning. That awkward feeling is you learning. And so you persevere through that. You learn on the new side, which is a great skill to begin with, but then you go back to the conditions that you're used to, and you're better because your brain has figured out so many different things. And so I did that for 5 or 6 years, where I'd always go 3-4 months my bad side, and then the rest of the year I was on my good side. And I feel like for me, that helps so much in my development as a windsurfer, where I learned so many things with wind from the right only because I'd put the time in with wind from the left. And so they really complement each other. And so I really recommend seeking out your bad side. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I really like the idea of doing a clinic, an in-person clinic when that's possible, that is just for your bad side. So if you're used to sailing with wind from the left, as I think a lot of you are, then we go to Portugal or Morocco, and everyone in the group is the same. No one has an advantage, and we just focus on learning the devil's tack, learning the bad side together. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I really like the idea of doing it as a group, as a community, because otherwise it can be intimidating if you're with people who are only used to sailing with wind from the right or whatever it is. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I think it would be really beneficial for getting better at wave sailing, and a really fun kind of learning experience. Again, we've got to wait for all this COVID stuff to die down, or I don't know if it's ever going to die down, but at least travel is more plannable. All right, let's get into Richard's videos. So one of the interesting things that Richard was saying is that he likes to surf. If I understood this right, um, he likes to surf this direction, like normal surfing without a sail. And so even though he doesn't windsurf this side, when he gets into the wave riding after a few wave rides, it starts to feel really natural, and that's cool. That's great. This feeling is so good. I don't have that experience because I'm a natural regular foot surfer, and I grew up with wind from the right, so it was hard to learn wave riding on my wrong side because it's not my natural foot stance. There's a cutback in here that I really like. In general, there's great flow. There's an off the lip that there's a good high five moment. I think it's coming up right here. Yeah, that's a nice high five. Keeps the speed. There's a question that I'm going to try and answer from Richard, and then I've got one main tip. The question is, I felt like I just don't need to put my backhand as far back as I could. If I did that, I felt like it worked against me, losing speed and control. Is that correct? So I agree with that, Richard. I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to move your hand too far back. The first thing I thought of when I read your comment before I saw the video, I thought maybe you need to move your front hand farther back, actually. I thought, oh, maybe he's got his front hand too far forward, and that's why it feels awkward to put the backhand back. But then after watching the footage, I think your front hand is in a good position. So that's not the case. And you are doing a good job of moving your hands around, which is, I think, more than half the battle, because really the idea is you want to fight just having this static grip, and you are getting that movement up and down the boom, which is really important. You could grip a little bit wider, which would give you more of that control and power, but it's got to be comfortable, and I don't think you want to grip too far. There's a point where then it's counterproductive, and so hopefully that answers your question. I think you could go a little bit wider than where you are here, but you can see that you are reached back. You are reached back a bit. You could go a little bit. You could go a little bit more, but I think it's fine. You're getting the movement, and you could just work on exaggerating that movement just a little bit more and more and more. The number one thing is getting that movement, getting that backhand movement, and that makes a really big difference when you do that versus not doing it. And then you can start doing it more radical. There's a lot that I like. You've got some good flow. As I've already said, I love that off the lip at about 30 seconds here. There's something I want to point out about your stance that has come up before in the group, which we've talked about. And I don't know if you can really see me. I've got to pull up maybe my camera. Sorry for this. Just so I can see what you guys can see, because I want to show you, Richard, I want to show you something about how you're standing, which I hope will clear some things up, help you get a more powerful stance. So it's kind of hard. I'm gonna have to maybe stand in my chair. So I don't have a wide enough lens to really show you, but what you don't want to be doing, and sometimes you're doing this, which I don't know if you guys can really see this. Maybe I need to move. Hold on, I'm just trying to position this camera so that you guys can see my whole body, so I can show you something, because I think this is important for everyone. It's one of the number one mistakes that I see with bottom turns. Okay, so you guys can see me. So you never You never want to be in this position where you're here. I can move this even more. Does that work? So you never want to be in the position kind of like this, where your knees are coming over your feet and your hips are kind of pushing in and your hands are close to your body. You want to have your butt out and engaged. So you feel like the muscles of your butt and your legs and everything really strong. And so my legs, I don't know if you can really see this here. My legs are in this like almost powerlifting position where I'm like my lower back is like flat and engaged. My butt and glutes are engaged. My legs are engaged. And I've got this power position, and then I'm just leaning forward. And so you can practice this kind of with a chair where, so you've got this power position, and then you just lean forward like this. And so you've got your butt out, you've got so much power, and it allows you to stay tight through your core, through your legs, and you're transferring all that power to the rail of your board, which is a really different position than this. So butt is out, and then you're really leaning forward. And like this position, you can really feel that against the chair. The only thing I don't like about how I'm showing it now is that you can think of your arms being away from you. You don't want to hold your sail too close to you. So it's kind of like this position, and you can do it with a chair or something, because it's a position that you can't stand comfortably in. It's not a balanced position. If it were a balance, because when you're balanced, right, then when you're balanced, then your energy or your weight is just up and down, right? And you want to get that board on its edge. And so in order to do that, you have to be in a position that's not balanced, right? So it's not something you can do just standing in your living room. So you need a prop, you need a chair, you need a wall, something. I think a wall is good to do it against, because then you can get some of that distance with your arms. All right, so let's get back to the footage. So you can kind of see when we look at the bottom turn, there's you can see so kind of like this position. So you really want to stick your butt out more and lean more forward and push the sail more away from you. You don't want to have the sail so close, so tight to your body, and that can allow you. So I think this is a bit of a transition where you're coming off of your toes and going towards the cutback. Here, let's turn this off. Right here, you're on your toe side rail. So really stick that butt out more and get your body leaned over more, and you can hold the sail farther away from you. So I don't know if I've done a clear enough job. Explaining what I mean with this, but it will make a huge difference in the amount of power that you're able to get on the rail in your bottom turns. And this goes for everyone. Another thing that was a nice, I really like that, also that carve at the end. That's a nice carving cutback. I like that. Another thing that, in addition to that body position, and that body position is so key, it makes such a difference. And so it's really thinking of your body as this really strong unit that then is just leaning over to then turn the board over, rather than kind of changing your body, bending at the knee, like kind of like how we saw it earlier. Another thing is to really think about turning your hips into the direction of the turn. So instead of, if you're trying to turn this way, instead of having the hips facing the nose of the board, turn your hips so that they're facing the toe side rail of the board, the bottom side rail of the board. If you go through the footage, you can see, like here, for example, the hips are facing the front of the board. And that was a moment where you're transitioning, because obviously the hips transition as you're going into your cutback. But so like here's another example where the hips could be facing more on the bottom turn rail. They're facing a bit forward, and that's an easy thing to think of and to implement on the water. And I find that it's really helpful to think of that when you're sailing on your bad side. So when you're sailing on your wrong side and you're trying to think, okay, how do I get into my bottom turn? How do I get into whatever? To really think of getting those hips turned into the center of the circle that is your bottom turn, right? So, or just towards the bottom turn rail. And that can really help get the right pressure on the rail, on the board, make sure that you have a smooth, powerful bottom turn. Okay, cool. So hopefully that's clear. Now we've got some jumps. You were talking about how you feel like you don't have much control. You do this little donkey kick thing. The control comes. It's just the more you do it, the more you'll have the control. Here you're going for some back loops. The only thing I'll say is I can tell that you're still trying to use your body. Oopsie. You're still trying to use your body to rotate, and you've got to use your head. You've got this chance now where you have so much skill and ability that it's like you're starting at such a higher level on this new side. So don't take the bad habits on the other side. You can start fresh. You know how to do it. So the main thing I would say is you've got to take off more up into the wind, and then use your head rather than your body to rotate. And then the goal that I would have is to, if you get more of these starboard tack days, to really focus on those just two fundamentals of just going really up into the wind and using your head to rotate and get that feeling. You don't have to land any, don't worry about landing them, just get those basics with the intention that then when the wind comes back to the normal direction, your brain has figured out something about how to do back loops, something intrinsic to the technique of back loops. And so then when you're doing it on your good side, you're better. You understand more about the move. You've got a more complete understanding. So that would be my goal. And so it's really making sure that you're using your head to rotate, going really upwind on the launch. All right, moving on. All right, we've got this clip from Lars. Welcome to the group. Lars sails a lot, which I love, and is always posting his footage. Oops. So this is a beautiful day in Denmark. I love these conditions. Good clean waves. Some nice dynamic turns going on here. Going for that high five section. I really like how snappy that turn is, how much spray he's generating. So my number one comment for Lars, and this is something I posted in the group, and this is something that is one of these recurring themes, and it's something that I feel like I can't say enough of, and it's that in your cutback, if this is your board, don't think about turning it like this. Just think about getting it on the rail. So you're just getting it on the rail and pushing against it. So you're actually just putting on the rail and pushing against it. And then the board does the work for you. The rail sets, you've got the speed from the bottom turn, the power from the wave, and the board is designed then, when it's on the rail, to carve around into a nice dynamic cutback. And maybe sometimes the fins will release or not, whatever. But that's how you get a dynamic cutback, by getting on your heels, getting on the heel side, flipping that board over like that. And so what we can see here is that the board is flat and Lars is pushing on it this way, pushing on it to turn it like this instead of getting it on the rail. And this is one of the biggest but easiest to fix mistakes that I see and have seen over the last year of analyzing footage in the coaching group. It will make such a big difference to your life, your wave riding life. This is a nice dynamic turn. You can see that he gets more on the rail here. You know, he's pushing more on the rail, sinking the butt down like we talk about. But that will make a huge difference. It's just really focusing on that. So Lars, you know, there's so many aspects of your sailing that are really good. You're sailing a lot, which is one of the other keys to improving. But that one thing will make a big difference, big difference to your sailing. So it's just, instead of thinking of your cutbacks like this, you think of them like this. And so you're just pushing on, getting on your heels and pushing against your board, getting your butt low. Makes a big difference. All right, Matteo. So Matteo, let's turn the sound off. Matteo posted this wave from Sardinia. Sardinia is on my list of places I want to go very badly. I really want to sail there. It looks so fun. So Matteo is an up-and-comer, ripper, posts a lot of footage in the group. Love to see it. I like the speed in the turn. I like the dynamicism. There is one secret to riding waves, which is not really a secret, but it's something that if you do it, you will wave ride better, just 100%. And it's something that I wish I'd learned when I was 15 or however. How old are you, Matteo? It took me way too long to learn, and some people never learn it, but it's the #1 way to just start riding better. And it's actually the only way to ride great, and that is to focus on wave selection. Wave selection is so important. So many times I see footage or I'm sent footage and asked to critique the technique. And the technique is fine, but the wave is not. And if you're on the wrong wave or on the wrong place on that wave, then it doesn't matter how good your technique is. It's going to go wrong. And the opposite is also true. If you don't have the technique, but you're always on the right waves and always in the right place on those waves, you're going to have really dynamic, fun, good-looking wave rides. So wave selection, what I like to call the fundamentals, which are wave selection, timing, and placement, are so important. And if you're going to work on anything, that is what you need to be working on. And so Matteo, I see a lot of bigger waves behind you, waves with more potential, waves that are offering more opportunities. I want you to be on those waves, and it will give you more opportunities, so your maneuvers will look more dynamic on the wave, but also you'll get better more quickly because those waves are offering you more opportunity. This wave is offering you maybe one turn, whereas the waves on the back are maybe offering you 2 or 3 turns. Now, maybe this is a reform. Maybe you already did 5 turns at the back and you rode the whitewater in and then it reformed on the inside and that's all the video of is. Fine. But the number one thing, the number one piece of advice I can give you is to focus on wave selection. Make sure that you're getting the best waves of the day. It looks like it's not very crowded at this spot, so you have the opportunity to get the waves. If it is crowded, you've got to work on your positioning in terms of catching waves and make sure you understand the priority rules. But getting the right waves, getting the best waves is so important. It's so important. I can't stress it enough. There's a video that I posted on my YouTube channel about a set coming in at Hokipa, and we've got Brazinho, Kevin Pritchard, Ricardo, and then another really good sailor, but someone that most of you probably haven't heard of. And that last sailor gets the best exchange because the other guys are not on the right wave, or they don't have the right timing, or they're not in the right place. Which just goes to show that all the technique in the world is worth nothing if you're not on the right wave, on the right place on that wave. So focusing on wave selection is so key. And the sooner you realize that, the more time you put into it, the better. And it's difficult. It's definitely not easy, but it starts with awareness. And if you're sailing with people who are better than you, follow them. See what waves they're catching. Pay attention to what they're doing. Just be aware of it. And from the awareness comes the ability. All right, moving on. We've got a question from Kevin, who says he likes the exercise using the wall to work on the body position for the bottom turn, which is what I was talking about with Richard. Then he's talking about practicing on flat water, how you're turning on the wave. How can you do that? So one of the things I think can be useful is just really working on getting that feeling of being on the rail. And you can do little S turns, rail to rail, and just really feeling what it's like to be on the rail and what it's like to be flat. And then what it's like to transition from rail to rail without having any flat moments. Because that is really what you want to be doing on the wave, is you go from one rail to the other rail, to the other rail, to the other, without much time having the board flat. And you can do that on flat water, but then you got to make sure that your turns are not so aggressive. So if on the wave you're doing turns like this, on flat water where you're doing those little S turns, it's something like this where they're much shorter. You're not doing much of a turn, but you can still feel that rail pressure and then feel the roll from rail to rail, and that can really help your awareness and your comfort with the board. So I think that can help. One thing I think you don't want to do is really try to go for these like full-on bottom turns and cutbacks, because it's just not possible on flat water. When you're riding a wave, you need that energy, that force that's coming back at you in order to do a proper bottom turn to cutback. And so if you're doing it on flat water, then you're missing too much of that experience. So what you can do is, for example, just work on the bottom turn and say, all right, I'm just gonna try and do a really hard carve, nice bottom turn, and then just jive at the end or crash at the end or whatever, but not worry about then continuing into a cutback, because it's not really possible without that force coming back at you. But doing the S turns is also a great training, where it gets you comfortable with your board, comfortable with going rail to rail. So it teaches you what it feels like to be on the rail. Two, teaches you what it feels like to transition rail to rail. So that's good. All right, couple questions here. Max has a new board. Nice, let us know how it goes. Bart posted this jumping video and wants to know how to get higher. So I've got one or two main tips. So the first one is to take off more upwind. It's hard when you're taking off. First of all, let me know, are we still good on the stream? I always get nervous. The internet is so bad in Hamburg. let me know. Are we still good on the stream? Give me a thumbs up or something. Make sure we're still good. All right, so I'm just gonna keep going, assuming it is. But guys, let me know in the chat that it's all good. All right, thanks, Mario. Okay, so Bart, in order to get more height, there's two main things you can do. One is to take off more upwind. So it's hard to get good height when you're taking off downwind. When you're taking off kind of on a more downwind or broad reach angle, you want to travel more. And in order to get good height, you're not really traveling far. You're kind of just going up and then down. And so taking off more upwind will help with that. And then the second, and I can see that you're kind of steering the board. It kind of is steering more and more downwind as you're taking off. So in order to really get good height, you want to take off up into the wind, and you just keep steering up into the wind, and then you just fall down like this on your tail. So you just like take off up into the wind, and you come down onto your tail. Whereas what you're doing here, which is another kind of jump, totally valid. Totally valid. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But what you're doing here is, how do I show this? Taking off more downwind and then kind of pointing the nose and traveling more downwind, which is great if you want to get more distance in your jump, more distance. But if you want to just get the height, you got to take off more upwind and just point up into the sky, point going upwind, up into the sky, and then just think about coming down on your tail. So it's like you go up like this, and then you fall down like that, and you land on your tail, and you can land so soft. It doesn't hurt at all. You just come down on your tail like this, and you just sink into the water. You can jump super high and land very, very soft like that. And so that is how to get higher. The second main thing is taking off on a steeper wave. So obviously, the steeper the ramp, the more height you can get. And so it looks like it's a bit of a rounded ramp that you're taking off on. What you want to see is, so if you can see where my mouse is, here I can make this maybe full screen, maybe you can see that. I don't know if this is, I think that's covered then. Here, I'm gonna go back. So is to take off kind of where my mouse is here, this moment where the wave is getting steep, right next to where the white water is, and angle up into the wind and on that steep section. And then just don't think about coming up over the gear again. You can stay under the gear the whole time. So you're going up, and then you just fall down onto your tail. You can get good height, it's fun, and land really soft. Cool. Thanks all of you guys for checking in. Ian, Mark, all you guys, thank you. Tom posted this. So Bart, I hope that's enough. So there's two main tips in there, as well as describing the feeling of it. I hope that's enough. Let us know if it's not. Tom posted this great tutorial about how to get this setup for filming on both tacks. So this is great. Keith used it to get this footage. Looks like a few of you guys have been using it as well. That's super cool. It allows you to get footage from both sides, so your jumping side and your wave riding side. So if that's something that you're interested in, I recommend checking out this post from Tom in the group. I wonder if there's a way to, I'll look and see if there's a way I can reference this somehow. But great, thank you, Tom. Very good resource. Looks like there were good conditions in Portugal. All right. What else do we have here? So Caro, did we go over this back loop last time? Or is this a new one? So today's if you're in the chat still, let us know if we went over this. Did we go over that? So that was posted the 29th. So I don't think we did, because that was last week, Monday. So, all right, let's go over this then. So first of all, I love that you're going for it. Good height. So this is something that we we were talking about in some of the other attempts that you posted before about not waiting enough and getting that nice height. So I love that you are waiting it, delaying it, getting this good angle. You're taking off into the wind. There's so many elements here that are perfect. Come around, the rotation looks controlled, looks fine, and looks so close. Looks so close. Now there's just one thing that's not happening. And when you start doing the one thing, you'll land these every time. And that's using your head. And so you can see your head is looking at your boom, looking like through your hands here. And already at this point, you want your head looking over your shoulder, guiding the rotation, looking at where you're going to land. And that's really it. You've got all the other pieces there. All the other pieces there. You're taking off at the right angle, you're waiting, your rotation looks controlled, it's not hectic, it's not going too fast or too slow. It's really just, you need to be using that head. And so I know it can be so hard to break out of that habit once you're used to rotating your back loop, mainly just using your body. And this is one thing that I'm thinking about a lot because this is such a common problem, and so it's something I'm thinking about and trying to come up with different methods. And so once we figure out a way to break out of this habit, whoever's the first to do that in the group, you gotta share what worked. So the few techniques that I've come up with which could work are doing the underhand grip. So if you're used to rotating like this, flip your hand around. Or if you are rotating like this, flip your hand overhand. And that can make enough of a change, enough of a difference that you don't automatically fall into that bad habit of using your body rather than your head. And then just always, when you're doing that, really focus on getting that position and then letting that head guide you. And really the head is guiding you, and it's opening up your body. And this is something we've talked about a lot on the stream. So you don't want your shoulders hunched in, because then when you put your head, it's not guiding your body. You want your shoulders back, so that when you're looking over your head, it's opening up your body and it's allowing the head to guide that rotation. So you can switch your hand around to try and get out of that habit. You can go for clue first back loops. Clue first back loops are not that hard. If you're going for back loops, I recommend also trying clue first back loops, because they also teach you different things about the move. You can get into clue first by ducking the sail, or just come out of a jibe, flip your feet, but don't flip the sail, and then try and hit a little ramp and go for the back loop. It'll teach you something about the move, which can maybe make it click when you go back to trying normal back loops, or can shake things up enough that then you can use your head, which you know you need to use. The other suggestion I had was to try with starboard tack, and that's a more radical thing to do, and takes more time, and obviously takes the conditions. But I think that can really help, and that's kind of the way I learned. You know, I was doing back loops on starboard tack, but not using my head and using my body, so I'd land 1 out of 10, and then it was the work I did on port tack and getting them consistent there, learning the move again, that allowed me, when I went back to starboard tack, to tackle the move with fresh eyes and use my head to guide the rotation. So that's a good way, I think, of learning moves, is having that, using the different tacks. But yeah, the biggest thing here is just really just using your head. You know, you can grip wider, like some of the other people said in the comments, and it definitely doesn't hurt to have a wide grip in your back loops. So that might give you more control, and then the comfort, you know, with control comes comfort, and that might give you the comfort then to use your head, so maybe reach back a little bit more. But really, you're doing so much right. It's so much there, just using the head. Just using the head, and the head will help you not over rotate. So what happens when you over rotate is you're whipping it with your body, and so what happens when you're just used to using your body to rotate is you either under rotate or over rotate, because your body is not, it's not a subtle enough way to rotate, whereas with your head it's more subtle, and so you can really control it. Where are you going to sail tomorrow, Carl? Maybe I'll see you. Maybe we can get on the water together. I'm thinking Bison House, but let's see. I think it's going to be cold, and I don't know if I've got thick enough neoprene for that. All right, here we've got another forward loop from Caro. So I know, Caro, you've got a bit of a mental block with the forward, so it's great to see you going for it. You've got quite a bit of a delayed rotation going off the ramp here, but hopefully it didn't hurt, and that helped you kind of get into the mental side. Really, the two biggest things with the forward are looking back with your head, so looking over that shoulder, thinking of the forward as a 360. Oops. What's going on? I lost our page. Come on. I don't know what's going on with my computer. All right, sorry for that. So anyway, so we had a bit of a technical problem. I don't know what happened with Facebook. Anyway, it's just really looking back with the head and thinking of it not as looking back, it is looking back, but thinking of it as looking in the direction of you're going as you're doing a spinning 360. I've got a video that's about this on my YouTube channel. If you haven't watched that, watch it. I think it will help. And I know that you have had a mental block with the forwards before, so this first step of getting this rotation is great, no matter what it looks like. Hopefully it didn't hurt. And then I really hope that then you can use this as a building block to keep working on it, and to really think of it as that downwind 360. And then you're really looking back with your head, because that's the direction you're spinning. You're spinning downwind, so you're looking like way downwind. And then just really sheeting in hard as well. So if we go back to those pictures, those are the two main things, and it can really help to have a wide grip. A wide grip makes a huge difference. But yeah, really looking back is, I think, the biggest thing that will help. Even if you're doing just the exact same thing as you're doing here, if you're looking back, you're going to rotate more. All right, we already answered that question last week's stream. We got a question about women's harnesses. I think it's already answered. I think everything's here has been answered. If you guys have a question that I haven't talked about, let me know. But I think that's it. Thanks for joining. I hope you've got wind tomorrow wherever you are. I'm going to try and get on the water. We've got plenty of things coming up in the group. I've got more videos coming. I've got more courses coming. What those look like exactly, some of that I'm still defining what it means, what will be the most effective. I'm trying to figure out what the best way of teaching this virtually is, because yeah, just trying to figure that out so that I can provide you guys with the best content that actually helps you learn. All right, so I think I'm going to sign off. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. We can discuss whatever you want during the week. Post your photos, videos, questions, comments, and I offer my insight. The community offers their insight, and then we go over it in the live stream every Sunday, this time, 8 o'clock German time for now. If the time changes, I'll let you know in the group. I think that's it. Thanks you guys for joining. I'm so proud of you, and I want to see your footage, so get some footage and post it in the group. I hope I can get some footage for you guys. We'll see if I can get some tomorrow. I'm not sure what it's gonna be like, how cold it's gonna be. Um, Carl, maybe I'll see you on the water. Cool. Alrighty. Take care and have a good week. I'll see you in the Facebook group and I'll see you here on Sunday.